All right, welcome back to the Chatcast. This is episode 10, part 2, where Will and I are talking about his first ever camp experience, canoe camping, and I'm kind of throwing in just a few stories of my own.
Wisdom.
But I didn't realize I'd be passing on so much wisdom from the first episode. But you know what? It's all good. I love doing it because I love talking about camping. So, the last episode we kind of touched on like a lot of the logistics and your experiences and your thoughts and things like that. There was something that you were really, really wanting to talk to us about when it comes to the second night.
Yes. So
of sleeping on the river.
Yeah, because it was 3 days, 2 nights.
Right. So you and 3 other friends, 2 canoes, 3 days, 2 nights camping. What you got?
So it was a full day of rowing, and I was really surprised how well my arms did. I did not feel tired at all.
Yeah.
I was really happy with. I think I'm out of shape, but my arms are pretty strong. I lift boxes a lot at work.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of a stocky guy, but I did good with rowing. But
how deep was the river? Was it pretty? Was it
shallow?
I was gonna ask because I do remember the noose being kind of shallow in places. I didn't know if it was gonna be like that the whole way or.
We had some segments that were really deep, and you could just tell, like, totally. Whoa! But I'd say most of it was shallow to the point where we would be riding along and then we'll just
totally, absolutely,
we hop out and then one leg it till we got deeper. But it for the most part, rowing was it was a lot of fun because the amount of fallen trees and branches and rocks in the river was like the perfect amount to where we could have fun dodging things.
Oh, sure.
We were, it was never.
It wasn't like a lazy river situation. There's some skill involved.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just enough to make us feel like we're hot stuff.
Totally,
it was really cool. We were like, wow, look at this guy. And then once nightfall happened, once nightfall happened, a little bit of arguing started where not nightfall, when it's that golden hour, you're like, it's starting to get dark, and we're like, where do we set up camp? Nate was like, I think there's some good beaches. We really wanted a beach for our second night. Our first night we were right next to the woods and right next to the river, but that was sort of we told ourselves that would be our nature night and tonight would be our beach night, and we would have plenty of room, and we'd be laying on soft sand. So that was something else. The tent on the concrete slab was not as good as we thought it would be. That was
sleeping on sand's not as good as you think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
See, I thought it'd be pillowy.
Nah, nope.
More like movement's annoying.
As soon as you lay down on it, it's compacted by your weight.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. But anyway, go. I mean, it's.
I didn't think
about
that. Yeah. But I think also we just wanted to beach it. And so we looked and we couldn't find a beach. And we were like, Nate was very hopeful, like a little bit further, we'll find one. Dylan was like, we need to just pick a spot. So they were back and forth on that. And then finally we came across in the middle of the river, not a sandbar, but like a rock bar. Basically, It was this good size. It was probably like, I don't know distance well, but probably like 50 or so yards of just like
of rocks.
Pebbles and it was elevated and it was in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
And me being the worrywart of the group, I was like, is this safe to be this exposed? Not safe. No. Bad idea.
No, go ahead.
Bad idea.
Go ahead.
So
since you asked, the answer is no. It's
not
safe,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So my thought was, I have seen bears run through rivers full speed like it's nothing, and I thought we're just sitting out here like on a platter. Every animal can see us, and I don't know. It made me a little uncomfortable being so exposed. I also thought, if there's some jamokes that live out there that want to pick on a couple of city guys that are trying to camp, they could easily see us and just start messing with us from the side of the river. I was
So is
nervous
that where you
about
guys
it.
pitched? That's where
Yep,
you guys make camp.
we did it.
Interesting. Horrible
Right,
decision.
right in the middle of the
Yeah,
wide open river.
So I like how you first went to bears. So there's no grizzlies or anything out
Oh,
here.
yeah.
It's just black bears.
Yeah.
Black bears aren't going to mess with you.
They mind their own.
They're not going to mess with you. out
Okay.
there. They're really not. They are some of the most timid when it comes to human interactions.
I didn't know
They
that.
really are. Now, that's not to say they're not dangerous. They are dangerous, but the level of interaction is pretty low. I wouldn't be as worried about people. Now, granted, I don't know exactly where you are in relation to a population center. I would be worried about the water. So you
Yes.
never know what's going on upriver of you. I'm not talking about a mile or 2 miles. I'm talking about 5 or 10. There
Whoa.
could be a storm way upriver that you don't even know about,
Wow.
and it's just dumping rain. Well, all that rain's got to go somewhere, and that somewhere is downriver, and you guys are downriver. So
Oh wow, that's wild.
So I'm glad that it worked out. I'm sure that was kind of cool. I'm
It
sure
was
it's kind of
cool.
to be like surrounded by water on an island,
yeah.
that kind of thing. I would never, ever, ever advise anyone, do not do that. Do not do that. And I don't want to hate on your
I love
friends.
it. I'm so glad.
Don't ever do that ever. That is extremely dangerous. That's extremely dangerous.
It was not even that high above the river
Yeah,
either. It was
no.
wide,
Sure. Yeah.
but and this you're gonna love the next thing I tell
Basically,
you.
real quick, what
Yeah.
you're doing, what you guys were doing,
Yeah.
you were sleeping on the riverbed, but the river was so low that part of the bed was exposed. That's what you're doing. You're sleeping on the riverbed. But go ahead.
It's
This is a horrible decision. That's a horrible
really
choice.
bad. The
You should have just listened to your own instincts.
Oh yeah, well we had came across one beach, but we were worried it was someone's private property because we could see a house just through the woods, and we
Yeah.
thought, don't know.
That's always that's always the safest option.
But
Yeah.
the when you're gonna love this, so
Okay, go ahead.
we've set up camp, we're sitting by the fire, we're smoking the cigars,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of a sudden, Grant's in front of me, and we've all set up our tents and stuff. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, behind Grant, floating by, is his cot on the river. It's the water.
Oh, no.
He's set up really close to the edge,
Yeah.
and it probably adjusted, like you said,
There's
just
tides.
slightly
Yeah,
tied.
there's tides, yeah.
And he's just sitting there, just like puffing on a cigar while his entire cot floats by behind him. I was like, Grant, and then he did he took off running
That is hilarious.
because of how like calm he was,
Yeah.
unaware, and it just floating by. It was so funny, so funny. And then,
All right, sorry about that. We just had a technical difficulty there, but we got everything situated. So one of your friend's cot was floating down the river behind him.
Yeah.
So did anybody else lose any other gear? Or?
Nope. His cot was the only thing because he was the only one that set up right on the edge. I don't
Okay.
know why, but he just put it set up right on the edge, and his whole cot got soaked. And
bet,
so he
yeah.
brought it over next to the fire,
Mhm.
and surprisingly, that dried it pretty well.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
dried it quick,
Absolutely.
and but it truly felt like a literally a comic moment from a movie. And but the Grant, it's just so funny to see like how each of us, we know each other in city life, in our normal life.
Yeah.
And seeing each other react to things and how we handle things out there. It's like we talked about in part 1 of this episode. Everyone is just is different. And, I was a little bit more, I think, I wouldn't say on edge, but
Aware.
hyper aware, a little antsy. Grant was like way more chill than I've really ever seen him. And then Nate is like complete leader mode,
Mhm.
because he's, just making sure everyone's on track and stuff. So it's just funny to see how we all change.
In that environment, well, I mean, you've changed your entire environment and the environment that you're used to seeing those other people in.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting for me is in those environments, I get to see me in a different light
Yeah.
because I'm all about introspection. I'm all about that kind of looking inward. for development. And when I get to experience myself in that kind of situation, where especially when I'm with somebody else, it's I need to check myself because they're not going to be used to Austin in this mode. Mm-hmm. So I need to slowly introduce them to camping Austin, let's call it. And really what it is I understand because I don't just do, walk out for 2 miles into the woods, find a spot, put up a tent, stay the night, pack it back up the next morning and leave. That's not the kind of camping that I do.
What do you do?
I do backpacking.
Okay, so explain the difference. Yeah,
absolutely. So backpacking is you've got a set distance. You're on most of the time you're on an established trail. You're going to go a set distance, usually between like 15, 20 miles if you're going to do it over multiple days. And well, it depends on the terrain. I can't really say that. A good hiker can cover around 12 to 15 miles in a day if the trail permits it, if it's not a terribly difficult trail.
That makes sense.
It's difficult. It's strenuous, but you can do it. Like when Austin and I went and camped on Shackleford Banks, for example, the whole island itself is 8 miles long. That's it.
Oh yeah, I've hiked it before. Yeah. And it was just during a beach day. I was like, I think I'm gonna go walk the island, and I ended up doing the whole thing.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No,
it isn't easy.
No.
But when you're trying to camp out there for a couple of days, you're only hiking out like 4 miles because it's only 8 miles long. So
I don't think I did the whole island.
You hike out, yeah. Well,
now that I'm thinking about it,
so the opposite end of the island is right there by the lighthouse, by Cape Lookout.
Okay,
so
then I didn't do the whole thing.
You can see it right there.
Yeah.
Okay. You did or did not?
Did not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought I
it's
did.
right there. You can't miss it. So we did 4 miles, stopped, made camp. Next morning, we did the last 4 miles. We had to cut our trip short because we were actually running out of water. We didn't bring enough fresh water, and you're on an island. There's no fresh water anywhere. You're not filling up a Sawyer filter or anything. So we had to do the whole 8 miles back.
Could you use a Sawyer bottle in the ocean?
No. Okay. It's not a desalinator. It's just getting rid of microbes.
Okay.
It's not getting rid of salt. So we did the 4 miles the first day, camped. 4 miles again to see the lighthouse and everything at the end, realized we didn't have enough water, then did the whole 8 miles back. So in one day we did 12 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tight.
It was difficult.
And tiring.
Very difficult. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
How much of it is sand when you're walking? Okay. That's what I thought. Because when I was walking it was all sand.
It's all sand. So what you do is you hike down where the water meets the sand because that sand is more compacted.
Yeah.
So it's a little more hard. And so your feet aren't slipping as much. I've got bad issues with plantar fasciitis. Just time in the military. So basically what that means is that the fascia, which are the tendons in the bottom of your feet, will become inflamed and tear.
Wow. Okay.
So I get these tearing sensations in my feet, especially if I'm walking in sand.
Did you know you had that during that time?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had it for years. I've had it since the military. It's something that I've dealt with for years, for a lot of my life.
Do you wear gel soles? Okay.
I wear hard soled boots. Even when I'm at work, I wear hiking shoes because the hard sole, stiff sole, prevents my foot from over flexing.
Oh, smart.
So, and that's why with the sand, I prefer to walk on the more compacted sand because it's better for my feet. My feet in sand, as soon as I go to the beach, even if it's just for the day, I know my plantar fasciitis is going to flare up. And it's because the walking in the sand, my feet will overly stretch.
Yeah.
And they'll slide and everything. It's just, part of the game. But anyway, when you're in those situations where you're going through that physical hardship, your brain really has to figure out what's important. For me, what's important is actually doing the actions of walking, eating, drinking, that kind of thing. I'm not wanting to answer a million questions. I'm not I'll hold a conversation and it's a pleasant conversation, but I don't want to have to make a million decisions when I'm out there. I've already got everything planned. I've got my route planned. I've got my timing planned. I've got what I want to eat planned. I've got everything planned. The last thing I want to do is start to have to make decisions, especially for other people.
Interesting.
And that will
get you edgy.
Wear my patience out quick.
Wow.
Very quick. because now not only do I have to worry about me and making sure I'm good, now I have to do it for this other person too.
Because this is a very reflective moment for you. You were talking about how when you're camping and hiking, it's a very inward for you to get. It's a very personal experience, and if you're now taking care of someone, that brings you out of that.
It absolutely does. Yeah. And I know that makes you sound like the biggest curmudgeon ever. Like, oh, this dude sucks. I don't ever want to go. I love camping, and I love camping with other people.
And
it's
everyone
so much fun for me.
Everyone who goes needs to know what they're getting into. So that's another thing.
I think that's I can do better about explaining, like, hey, this is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
I would probably wait till we got there till we really explain how difficult it was, because then nobody would ever come.
Yeah.
But it's camping is, I love it. It's one of those things where
it's necessary for everybody.
I think so. I think people really underestimate themselves and what they can handle and what they can do, even if it is just going out for like a mile, 2 miles, setting up camp, and then coming back the next day.
You will learn quickly how capable you are. Yes. I mean, because I went into it knowing I was not in shape, and knowing that I am a bug magnet that will my blood is the tastiest blood,
Yeah, we all are.
And also I have just a lifetime of scary movies in my head, and I'm also a big worrier. I am such a chill guy, but my whole life I was the one in the friend group that was like, I don't know, guys, about like anything. Like, my friends would be like, hey, let's skip this class and go do this. And I was like,
one friend's like, guys, I think we should split up. And you're like, no, I don't know.
I'm that guy.
So did you have any instances of just like really creepy encounters, or
yes,
like you said in part one, you talked about hearing something walking around the campsite.
Yes, that was probably the thing that freaked me out the most, was the noises of the first night, and the I mentioned it real quickly, but that one animal noise we heard that was sort of like, that freaked me out, because you don't know what animal it is in the moment, weird. And it just sounds like a moan or something. Yeah. So that is freaky. But what made me uncomfortable was when you're out there for hours and alone on this river, and all you see is forest around you, yet all of a sudden you see like a brief glimpse of some random person just walking on the bank of the river. And, it was just like some dude in like a t-shirt and jeans, but like your mind goes to like worst case scenario, like, oh my gosh, this guy is either has been watching us, or like this guy is about to literally just like steal all of our, attack us.
Yeah.
For some reason, my mind just goes there. And so, most of the time we like to yell out and wave and be like, hey, how you doing? We would say the first, hey.
Yeah.
And, what was unnerving was, this one group, this was the guy I mentioned in the part one that said, when we said we've been out here 2 days, his eyes widened. He said, what you got under that tarp? Because Nate and I, this is another thing I didn't tell you, we were afraid of worst case scenario, something tipping over in the canoe. We wrapped all of the gear in a tight tarp.
Okay.
And our thought process was, if we did topple over, it would buy us just a few seconds.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
To maybe get also, when you're paddling, you're constantly splashing water in the canoe.
Yep.
So it protected our stuff from our paddle splash.
Sure, totally.
But he said, what y'all got under that tarp? And that immediately made me a little uncomfortable. And then I said, we said, oh man, we're ready for, the trip. We got all the food and tents and stuff. And he was like, good, you're going to need it. And he said it in almost like this sort of like, I'm a local and you don't know what you've gotten yourself into.
I love that you put yourself into a very Blair Witchy style movie in your camping trip. I love this.
Oh yeah.
It's like, this dude is probably just like, I didn't know.
A friendly guy.
He went home to his wife. He's like, I don't know. I didn't have anything else to say. So I just asked him what was under the tarp. Here's Will in his canoe going, that guy's going to eat us.
He wants to put me in a tarp.
That he's like, This guy's got a body under that tarp.
Yeah, and then I love my mind always. I'm a very
you gotta get control, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, and I will say most of the trip I was not on edge or scared or nervous, but it's just those little moments. And the probably the most realistic fear I had, like the scariest moment that was like, okay, this isn't my imagination. I'm about to ruin this trip was when I dropped my paddle. And it was in deep water, and I literally, it slipped out of my hand. I saw it fall next to me, and I was watching it quickly start to sink. And I snatched it up. It was, I don't know what it was. It felt like very, very tough metal or plastic, but it was
typically they float.
Yeah, this did not float, and I was scared to death. Or maybe it was from the look of it, it seemed like it was sinking, but I dropped it and I could see it just kind of slice its way down into the water. And in that 1 or 2 seconds, I felt like I watched, like, it was horrifying. I quickly
that was the start of your horror movie.
Yeah,
now you guys can't get out.
Yeah, and get this, I'm not joking. 2 or 3 weeks after we got back, a news story broke out of a couple of people canoeing down the river in North Carolina. I don't know what river, but it might have been the news. But they dropped their paddles and they had to be rescued, airlifted like out of there because they literally couldn't make their way.
That's one thing about camping that I never want to be. I never want to be that guy that has to be airlifted off of a mountain.
Oh my gosh.
Because that, I would feel like such an idiot.
I know,
because I didn't prepare myself. I've
That's how I felt in the moment. I was like, I can't believe I dropped my paddle. Like,
yeah, no, I get it. I've lost I lost a hiking pole. My first trip out to Linville Gorge, actually, and it was during which river crossing was it at? I want to say it was the first river crossing. My first time out there was actually my first actual backpacking trip, like out of the military. In the military, it's way different to like actual backpacking where it's just different. It's just completely different. But anyway, it was my first backpacking trip ever, actually. I went with a friend of mine, and for some reason, she didn't want to make the crossing where we were supposed to cross. Like, you could very clearly tell because the trail went down to the river. Like, it's clearly worn to the river. And then on the other side, we could see where people are coming out and then continuing up the trail. And I can't remember why she didn't want to cross here. So she made the executive decision, because at this point, it's my first backpacking trip. She's been out here before. So I'm like, I'll just defer to her knowledge. Big mistake. And we had fun. Don't get me wrong. We had a good trip, but man, it was way more difficult than it should have been. And where we finally decided to cross, we had bushwhacked through the woods for a solid 2 miles. It was thick. It sucked.
Both of y'all slicing through with your machete?
Yeah, not machete. I mean, it's a term, but it's like going off trail. We're going off trail. Yeah. We bushwhacked through. We blazed our own trails. What it was another way of calling it.
I like that.
And we really shouldn't have. We really should. We just did not need to do it. And where we decided to cross, it was way deeper than where we initially would have crossed. So not only are we exhausted from blazing a trail and bushwhacking, but now where we're crossing is up to our chest, and we've got packs on our backs.
Did you panic at all?
I didn't panic. So earlier on in the day, we had crossed paths with a group of dudes. It was like 5 or 6 guys. They were probably in their 30s. At that time, I was in my late 20s.
So like seeing them, you're like, oh, I'm these guys are doing it. I'm fine sort of situation.
No. It was just so I've actually never had a bad experience on the trail running into other people. Like most of the people you run into when you're backpacking are some of the nicest people ever. They're so nice, so polite. It's great. I love it. That's my
experience with hiking. I mean, I've done a lot of hiking in my life, but that's different. Hiking at the Eno River in Durham, it's not the same as backpacking. You're not wrong, it is. You're right. People want to have a good experience, so they're going to be nice to you.
They're super nice people, and they were super cool. We actually ate lunch with them. We were all on top. So where we actually ran into them the first time was a trail junction where 2 trails crossed. They were coming down a different trail than we were, but we were both going down the same trail. So we stopped at this big area where these two trails crossed, and we all ate lunch. They ended up leaving before us, and then we left after them. Where we crossed just happened to be directly across from where they set up camp on the far side of the river. And they saw us trying to make this crossing where we should not have been trying to make this crossing.
Did they yell out at y'all?
So they didn't yell. Well, okay. So they did yell over to us, but only after we had made it about halfway into the river, and they could tell we were struggling. And there's nowhere you want to be struggling least than in the middle of a river with a pack on your back.
Wow.
And you're barely making it. Thankfully, these dudes, a couple of these guys are veterans. I didn't know this till afterwards when we were talking to them. They had already set up their camp. Like, they were sitting in chairs. Two of them came out to meet us. One guy came directly out to us. No, both did. Both guys came out to us. One of them asked for my pack. The other one asked for my friend's pack.
Oh, that's cool.
And they carried our packs for us, and then we just followed them. And they had already had their tent set up, their chairs. They had a fire going. They were like, hang out, chill, get some energy back. My friend didn't. She was getting bad juju. I didn't. I was like, these are cool dudes. They're fine.
You got to think also being a woman too.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that she's the only woman in this whole group of guys, including me. And so we.
I felt the same way with the guys at the river.
We stripped our boots off, stripped our socks off, and we let those start to dry out their fire. About 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so. Then we laced back up, got our packs on, and then we didn't go much further down the trail. We probably went like another 200 yards, and then there was another campsite off the right off the river, and that's where we made camp.
That was one of your two approaches to being stuck in the river. You mentioned in part one how you can have someone come and carry your load for you,
ferry your pack for you,
like in Lord of the Rings. Share the load.
Share the load. Yeah. So you definitely have some very interesting situations that you can run into out there, but they're only as bad as you allow them to be.
Yes.
And now, granted, there has to be some preparation for things like this. Like she had a firearm on her. I had one as well. So worst comes to worst, you do what you got to do. But it wasn't that. They saw people in need and they wanted to help. I've never once run into a bad person on the trail. That's not to say they don't exist. Like I said in part one, there's murders that happen on these trails. But as long as you're prepped for that, like you're carrying a knife or you're carrying a hatchet or you're carrying a gun, you're mitigating some of that. A lot of the time when I'm hiking, I've got bear spray. So if I need to, I can just use that on a person.
Yeah. Now I wonder, bear spray compared to mace.
So what are you like? Is one worse than the other?
Yeah.
Okay. So bear spray is typically a gel. It is a foam or a mist, but it's typically more sticky than say like OC spray, like what law enforcement uses,
which is misty.
Yeah, it's a stream. It's not a mist. It's a stream, like it's liquid.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Because you've got distance on the person, so it's got. You're still going to get hit with some back spray.
Yeah,
but it's a stream of liquid.
Wow.
Whereas bear spray is more of a fog, is what it's called.
Okay. See, I don't. For some reason, I've always thought of it being. Still a spray of like misty air, like mace is liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So because you want that directness of the liquid.
Point it at a face, it's hitting the face.
It's going to hit somewhere on the face. Absolutely.
You didn't have to get maced when you were in.
I've been maced many times.
Whoa.
All in training situations.
It was at the bar downtown.
No, it's always been in training situations, and it's sucked every time. You're never gonna get used to it. It always sucks.
Would you say it's the worst pain you've ever felt?
Ooh, yeah, totally. Because it's my eyes.
Yeah.
So what happens is when it comes into contact, so it doesn't just burn your eyes; it burns any skin that it comes in contact with.
Oh my gosh.
So what they do is, and every training situation has been the same from the military and to law enforcement, what they do is they'll hit you from this ear, trace it across your face, across both eyes to the other ear.
Slowly?
Yeah. It's like you're about this far away that we are right now, probably about like 4 or 5 feet, maybe a little more. and you hold your arm out and you get hit in the face, and you have to either, like in the military, you have to sing the Army song. When I was in law enforcement, you had to say the ABCs. You couldn't sing it.
Oh.
You had to say the ABCs, and then you have to do some type of like combatives thing. So you
and keep your eyes open, I imagine,
as much as you can. But
yeah,
it's very
of
difficult.
course.
Basically, what you do is like you grab a baton and you have to attack somebody holding a pad. It's to
when
simulate,
suffering through the pain.
yeah, because when you deploy OC spray, you're gonna get hit by something. You are. It's just how it is.
Well, movies,
not gonna
it's always someone over here that wasn't even the target.
Well,
It's still like
that person's gonna get hit
Yeah.
too. Like whomever's in your general vicinity is gonna get hit by it. It's just not as much as the person who's getting hit directly. But from your ear to your eyes to your other ear, all of that, this
your nose too.
is on fire.
Oh.
The whole of it. Your eyes are so on fire they feel swollen. They're not actually swollen, but they feel like they're swollen.
Wow.
It's the worst feeling ever. And when you're running cold water on your face, it feels great, feels good, feels good. Well, you have to take a breath at some point. So when you lift your face up, as soon as you lift your face up, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to blink rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
But as you blink, oxygen's being exposed to your eyes, which makes it burn more.
Oh,
but it has to, because it has to dry out that oil. It's I forget what the O is. It's capsaicin is the C. I forget what the O word is, but it's chili oil. It's pepper oil is what it is.
Whoa.
And it that's what it sticks and it burns and it's awful.
What do you think? Like 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
No. Like a solid hour or two.
Oh wow.
And then when you take a shower at the end of the day after the fact, it reactivates it.
Oh my gosh.
So what you have to do, yeah. So when you go to bed that night, the next morning you can't reuse that pillowcase. You have to clean it immediately. Anything that comes into contact with your face, you have to either get rid of or clean because it now has that residue on it.
Whoa.
Bear spray or bear fog is way, I don't want to say way worse. It sucks. It sucks as bad. It's just as bad.
Wow. So,
but that's more of a fog, but it sticks. It sticks worse because it's got to stick to fur.
oh my gosh, that's crazy. I mean, my dad, who was he was in law enforcement, and then he became the warden of the prison in Durham.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So my dad, very cool job. He would take us to the prison and show us around.
Okay. Weird bring your kid to work day
Well,
thing, but all right.
he never took us where the inmates were.
Okay,
only
fair,
around
fair.
the offices
Okay.
and stuff.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, but still super
job, Dad.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was such a neat thing. And it's funny because like some of my friends, when they would first meet my dad, they have this idea of like, oh man, prison warden, and then as soon as they meet him, they're like, oh, okay, he's super chill and funny like Will.
Yeah.
But anyway, he told me he had to get maced and he had to get tased as well.
Yep.
So
Not
did
fun.
you get tased?
Oh yeah, many times.
That's probably not as bad.
It
sucks, but
it's way worse. But it's not as long.
So tasing is way worse in the moment.
Way worse.
Whoa. Do you feel it your whole body?
Yeah. Have you ever had a Charlie horse before?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the
It's
worst.
a Charlie horse, but your whole body.
Oh wow. That is not the
You feel it in your fingernails. You feel it in your teeth.
Whoa.
Yeah, it sucks. It's not fun. It's not a fun thing ever at all. Period.
That's
It
why
sucks.
whenever I see a video on cops of someone, some nut on the street getting tased and he's still running, I'm like, how? I guess drugs.
Well, that or one of the probes didn't make proper contact, so it's not completing the circuit. So
if it hits shirt, is it not going to be as powerful as if it hits skin?
it depends on how much it penetrates. If the probe makes it to your skin, you're fine. In the wintertime, tasers are pretty much useless because everybody's wearing a jacket or a hoodie.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
It's got to make it through all the layers.
Needles,
Probes.
right?
Yep.
Probes.
Think
Okay.
of like a fish hook.
Oh, okay.
But it's not as aggressive. There are two little barbs that have to penetrate. They have to make contact or penetrate the skin,
Mm-hmm.
and then they carry that current. And then those two barbs are your contacts. So one barb carries current, and it connects to the other one through your skin, and it transfers the current over the length of however much skin is between each barb. So in training, what we did was they would take one barb, they would tape it to your ankle.
Shut up.
Yeah, and the other barb they would tape it to the opposite shoulder. So it's the length of your back. That sucked. It was awful. It was awful.
They've thought this through.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course they did. So that's why they have someone on each side of you,
Holding you
to guide you. No, they don't. Well, they catch you. They don't hold you in place. It's not like, oh, you're not going anywhere to your taste. It's not that. It's to catch you.
Yeah.
There's any number of YouTube videos where you can find this, but it's some of the weaker ones I've seen is where they're already sitting on the ground, and then they get hit and they just roll back, and I'm like, man, dude, I part of it's like you're fully conscious of what's happening, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Well, what's weird about it is when you get hit with that taser, your whole body locks up and you're just screaming, and it does hurt, but you're screaming because all the air is being forced out of your lungs because all of your muscles are contracting.
Oh my gosh. The thought of,
but you're standing there going, but you know what's happening. And you're like, well, I'm going to either fall on my face or fall on my back. Got to pick one,
Well, as it compared to with mace, because it's your face and because it's your eyes.
Oh no!
In
Big
that
taste
moment,
hurts
you
way
can't.
Worse.
But I guess though, with mace, in that moment, you can't think straight because it's just like.
Oh no! Yeah, no. You and
it's
that's
so
the whole,
debilitating.
That's the whole point of doing singing the army song or doing the ABCs and then doing that combatives thing is to get you to calm down.
Whoa.
Because there's still things you have to do.
Oh yeah.
It's most definitely a mind game.
Wow.
Like when I was in the army and we were doing a lot of the CS gas training, so tear gas training. I'm not going to say I built up a tolerance to it or anything like that, but my 12th experience with it was much less debilitating than my first experience with it.
Did you get into backpacking and hiking and camping? You feel like, was that all after your service?
Yep.
And do you think that if it wasn't for your time in the service, you would have still gravitated towards all the outdoor, or did that
totally.
kind of, okay.
Yeah, but the military was the catalyst to make me realize that I can do it.
Oh, that's cool.
There was always that like, I'm afraid to do it. I've never done it before, so I'm afraid to do it. And especially if I'm by myself, if something goes wrong.
But after your time in service, you're like, bring it on.
Yeah, freaking, I don't care. I'll do it. It's all good. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. I've only had a few situations. I think I've only ever had like one or two instances where I had to cut a trip short. One was at Linville Gorge. I was solo hiking Linville Gorge. And I love trying new gear. I love trying new gear. And in this particular trip, I was trying to go as light and fast as possible just to try it.
See, I would want to do that because I was shocked how little of the stuff I used stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Most people, especially the first trip, always overpack. And that's fine. That's fine. As long as you learn from that.
Because it is satisfying when all of a sudden someone's like, man, I need this. And I'm like, oh, I got that. And then I pull it.
Absolutely. I was trying to go as light and fast as possible. And for this trip, I had three water sources. I had three water sources, yeah. I had a Camelback. I had two collapsible water bottles.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So basically think of there should have been a collapsible water bottle that came with your Sawyer. It's like a pouch that screws onto the back of the Sawyer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I had two of those. One of them was for a Sawyer. The other one's actually a water bottle. It's like, firmer material, but it collapses and rolls up.
Every one of us, not everyone, because Grant didn't, but Nate, Dylan, and I had those filtration bottles, but mine was the only solid plastic bottle. Nate and his had the pouch.
Yeah. So I chose those because they're lighter than carrying water bottles, like Nalgene bottles or otherwise.
So you can call them life straws, I guess. Too.
No. They're specific water bottles that are like this, and they're made to take up less space and to be lighter. That was the whole point.
So what other stuff did you do to lighten your load?
And for that trip, I did have a tent. No, I didn't. I had a hammock for that trip. I will never hammock camp ever again.
All right.
I hate hammock camping.
Tell me why.
It's awful. One, I hate hammocks because my feet are elevated. So my feet are always going numb.
Yeah.
I can never get comfortable. I move a ton when I sleep.
I do too.
I roll so much when I sleep. I can't do that in a
Not
hammock.
conducive.
Also, your back is always cold unless you have a quilt or a blanket underneath you, as well as on top of you.
Whoa,
Because you've
yeah.
got that really thin material that you're in that doesn't block any wind or retain heat.
That's a good point.
It,
You're
like,
only warming the top of you.
You're trying to be as light as possible, but I find when I tried to hammock camp, I was always having to carry more gear than I would if I was tent camping. What else did I do for that one to keep it light? So I dropped a tent. I dropped any hard water containers, which was where I went wrong. And the reason was my Camelback sprung a leak and my water bottle, my collapsible water bottle sprung a leak.
So you cut this trip short.
Yeah, I had to. And so I still had the Sawyer pouch, which retains water, but it was less than a liter. And that's just
Constantly
not enough.
refilling.
Yeah, it's not enough. There's so many sections of that trail. You're nowhere near water, and you're gonna need it. So I was like, well, I did spend a night out there, but I wasn't far from the truck. I think I did like 5 or 6 miles, and I was like, well, I don't have any water. I'm just gonna have to head back, and which sucked because I had to hike 5 miles back.
Okay,
and there was no water. Period. There was no water on the trail that I was taking out, so I had no water. Period. And I was like, well. And the leaks were so substantial that I couldn't just plug them with duct tape. I always carry duct tape, always.
Smart. I should have brought that. That's a good idea.
And you don't take a whole roll. What you do is you take some off the roll and you just wrap that up.
Whoa.
That way you don't have to take a whole roll and you just throw that into your pack.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, dude. I've got tons of these little tips and tricks. What I use duct tape for the most is when I get blisters.
Whoa.
I don't use moleskin. Moleskin has never worked for me. It always comes off whenever I sweat. I sweat a lot. Duct tape works great, and it just is
a layer.
It's
over
moleskin,
it.
and that's what it is. That's all it's for.
Wow, that's smart because as soon as you have a blister, oh man, it's gonna bust and it's gonna hurt way worse.
Yeah, I don't get blisters like I used to, but I still
got
carry
them a
just
lot
in case.
when I was young, but it's been a while.
Whenever before I go camping, what I'll do is I'll trim my toenails. Oh. Because when you're walking, your toes, where your toes are next to each other, they're sliding and rubbing. If you don't trim your toenails and trim them good, your toenails are going to start to wear into the skin of the toes next to it.
Wow, I'm glad that I trimmed mine because I have Vulcan toenails. They're like they're
talons.
They're talons. Have you broken a pair of clippers?
I've never broken a pair of clippers. No,
I've broken a pair of clippers.
It always sounds like something from Dumb and Dumber. I think that's
they use
a grinder.
Sparks are flying. Seriously, talk about a wake up call when you go to snap a toenail and you break metal.
The lever.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I
have to use the big clippers.
Yeah,
have to. But
totally.
The what I was gonna say was that trip. You just told me that you had to call short. You were alone on that one?
Yep, okay. And that's why I called it short.
Yeah, smart.
You really have to be careful when you're by yourself. And
think of the return journey.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you think about Lord of the Rings, where Sam was trying to save some of that bread for the return journey, you really do have to plan for it, even if it's an easy hike, because let's say you take a bad step or you turn an ankle. That easy hike, it just became that much more difficult. And it became that much longer.
Yeah.
You're not covering the same amount of distance. So like, let's see, what do I do? So I carry multiple sources for fire. I carry a lighter. I carry matches. The matches that I carry, I take out of the box, and I've got them in this. I bought this tube. It's originally for carrying batteries, like AA's, AAA's. But what I use it for is to carry matches in it because it's got an O-ring at the top, so it's waterproof.
Very smart.
It's a super long tube. It's about 5 or 6 inches long, and it's got a really long latch that clips it down. And inside that latch, that arm, I took the striker off of a matchbox, cut it off, and then glued it to that. So that's where I strike my matches.
Bro!
That latch keeps dry. It keeps the striker dry.
That's so cool.
Like that.
I love that.
It's kind of neat. It's kind of neat when you come up with stuff like that. It's just like, do I really need to do that? No, they make waterproof matches, but
every time you use that, it feels good.
The one I have is way slimmer, and I can fit more matches in it. Like it's not like the typical waterproof ones that you find are like that big around, like a pill bottle. They're ridiculous.
But something like what you have, you could slip into your pocket.
Yeah, totally. Yep. I carry I've got two of these. I've got a fanny pack that usually, if I don't have the fanny pack, I've got a set of binocular. I got a binocular pouch, and it's made for holding binoculars. But what I carry in it is snacks and a gun. That way they're right here. They're easily
That's good.
super quick.
Yeah.
So if I drop my pack, let's say I'm getting water or something like that, I drop my pack somewhere. I've still got my food.
That's a good point.
If I don't have that, I've got a fanny pack, just a normal fanny pack, and I'll carry that stuff in it.
Underrated, that fanny pack.
Yeah, like everybody hates on people with fanny packs. I remember my dad had a nice black leather fanny pack when I was a kid, and thinking back about it, he looked like a dummy, or not a dummy, he looked like a nerd. Sorry, Dad, I love you, man. After getting one and seeing his versatility, Dad, you're a cool guy.
There it is. I'll never forget that photo of The Rock with a black T-shirt. You know the photo.
Black turtleneck.
Black
with
turtleneck.
Chain
And a fanny pack.
Tucked in. And a fanny pack. Absolutely. I know. I'll post that picture here where I've got space in the frame.
Look at him. Just look at him. Look at that.
Yeah, it's so good.
He looks so good.
Curled hair. Oh, man.
He looks great.
Yeah, he doesn't. But anyway, what else? What else you got?
I think, well, for me, when I was on the tail end of the journey, I had a moment where I was afraid that rapids were going to happen. And the reason why was because we looked at a GPS or like Google Earth image of the river up ahead. And there was a dam because there was a like power plant towards the end of the river segment we were on, and near that power plant was a dam. And on the Google Earth image, whenever they took that image, it was the river where you kind of met up with the dam. The water was white, and when we saw on the image that white water, we were like, those are rapids. So we were like, oh my gosh. Okay. So we thought, oh my gosh, it's blue. It's, brownish everywhere. All of a sudden it's turning white. Those are rapids. So, we were panicking. It was no rapids at all. None at all.
You can't trust Google Earth, man. The images are so old. I was going to mention something that's completely, in part one, I had asked you where you went to eat right after the trip. You said Burger King.
Oh my gosh.
The reason I asked is because whenever Austin and I go to Linville Gorge, and we've been up there several times, and we always stop at Cracker Barrel. There's this Cracker Barrel on the way there, right next to a car dealership that we stop at every time. And it's the first thing we eat or drink after we get off the trail.
That sounds incredible.
We're freaking gross. We've been hiking for days.
Cracker Barrel loves you anyway.
We go to Cracker Barrel. Yeah. We immediately go to Cracker Barrel, and I always order a Coke.
Oh.
I rarely drink soda these days.
But that's when you want a soda.
But the reason I order that Coke is because I'm so dehydrated that Coke, one, is the most delicious Coke I've ever tasted in my life.
When you're tired and sweaty, Coke tastes better than ever.
It's extra fizzy. It's the syrup in the Coke's a little extra strong, so it tastes better. And I wouldn't say more sweet, but more strong, like, a little more potent. But I'm also so dehydrated that the caffeine in the Coke actually does something.
Yes.
You kind of feel that buzz from it. And it's so good. It's so good. I always get a country fried steak with mashed potatoes and fried okra. And then after we're done, she and I will share one of those brownies with ice cream on top. And when you're on, when you're coming off of one of those trips, man, I really wish you had gone to a diner. I
really wanted
down.
it. I suggested it.
I know. I really wish you guys had, because it's so good. You're so tired and hungry that food tastes so much better than it actually is. It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, I knew that was the right move. And, when I ate, and the thing about eating something like Burger King on the back bumper of a U-Haul, we inhaled it and then you just feel like crap.
Yeah.
You eat it. I don't know. We ate it because we weren't sitting at the restaurant. We sort of just like,
yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know. I knew right away when we got in that U-Haul and started driving that I didn't feel good. And man, I was out of commission for honestly a week because but the worst of it was 3 days.
Yeah.
For like 3 days I was throwing up and pooping and it was just awful. And I had never experienced food poisoning.
Turn your mic.
Oh, thank you.
There
I had never experienced food poisoning.
Yeah.
In my to that level in my life where you drink something, or eat something, and literally 10, 15 minutes later, it's got to come out. And I turned to Jen, bless her heart. She took care of me through all of it. She was like forcing me to drink liquid IVs and stuff.
Yep. Absolutely.
There was one moment I turned to her and I said, babe, I'm scared. I feel like I'm going to like die.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Absolutely.
And I was, of course, freaking out thinking, what if it isn't the chicken sandwich? What if I caught river disease?
you would have known at the end after the first drink of contaminated water, you would have known.
Yeah. And I told Jen and my family, because their mind went to you drank a lot of river water. Because all of us were talking about how, I mean, I did it for 3 straight days. And so when I told them about it, I was like, I didn't feel bad till after I ate the sandwich. So that's how, and chicken can go bad quick.
Well, it can,
salmonella.
but I'm going to be very honest with you. Those Sawyers are very good.
I'm blown away.
Very good.
That might be one of the best inventions
I've
ever.
got 3 or 4 in that back bedroom. One I use for camping, and the others are just for backup.
Yeah,
like they're so cheap. They're like $20 a piece.
I got it at Walmart.
Yeah, they're ridiculously cheap, and they work really, really, really well. They're really good to have in emergencies. Like let's say the power goes out or something like that. It's a natural emergency or a natural disaster or something like that. Like a weather event, and you need water. Those Sawyers work incredibly well. Now, in those situations, if I can still boil, I will.
Yeah,
but I'm going to run it through the Sawyer first, and then I'm going to boil it, and you're good. You're fine. It's totally fine. Camping is one of those things that in the past couple of years I've not been able to do a whole lot of.
It gets harder.
Well, it's just timing. I'm so busy these days,
and when you do, it's gonna hit you so good.
Yeah,
because of how you're doing it when you need it most.
I'm probably going to wait until the end of the summer season when all the tourists are gone. And like Beaufort really just kind of scales down. There's not a lot of people out there, and I'm going to go camp on that island with those horses by myself. And I'm just going to stay out there for a weekend and just be.
Shackleford, where he's going to go, it has wild horses, and they are. I finally saw them not too long ago. I mean, like really saw them like up close walking, and to me. The thought of wild horses on an island at the beach is incredible.
When Austin and I camped out there, we were laying in the tent because it was one of those things where you're just tired. You want to go horizontal and go to sleep. So we're laying in the tent together, and it's there's still light out, but not a whole lot. We could see clearly, but it wasn't super bright. And we hear a noise, and I'm like, well, what's that noise? We're on an island, and there was only one other person camping on the entire island. There were just 3 people camping. It was great. And we only saw that guy once.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're laying in the tent. We hear some noise. And so I look down to our feet because the opening to the tent at the bottom is just mesh. There's no actual vestibule. And I see a horse grazing probably about 5 feet from the front of our tent. Yeah, it was incredible. So
when I saw him close, it wasn't that close.
You aren't supposed to get closer than the length of a bus.
He came to y'all though,
and that's the thing. If you're camping and they tell you, there's like information that you go over and read before you go camping out there, and part of that was if you're camping in your tent and they're closer than that, that's fine. Just don't disturb them. Like, okay, cool, that's fine. I have no plans of disturbing this horse. I'm just going to watch.
Hey, babe, check this out.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, the idiots who do crap like that, my God, it's not cool. It's not funny. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And you're just showing how dumb you are.
Thankfully, a lot of times they get what they ask for, and they get kicked.
The universe definitely gets them. But anyway, we're sitting there, and there's a horse directly in front of our tent, probably about 5 feet, just grazing. Because where we set up our tent, you have to be on the ocean side. And we set up in this area that was completely blocked off into our front and our sides by dunes. And the area that we're in is kind of flat. It's nice. And there was just a little bit of grass poking up, but I didn't think it was that much. I didn't think it was going to draw too much attention from horses. And so we're sitting there watching this horse, and I hear noise off to my left, just at my eyesight, and I lean forward in the tent and I look, and there's 4 more horses next to us grazing. So we're completely surrounded by a herd in our tent, just watching these.
First time out there.
Yeah, and we're watching these horses graze through our tent until it gets dark and we can't see them, and then we just went to sleep.
That sounds.
It was incredible. It was
beautiful.
Incredible. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's best case scenario for something like that.
Yeah, it's super cheap to camp out there too. I highly recommend.
I mean, think about all that North Carolina has. I mean, we are in such a sweet spot. It reminds me of when you look at the map of North Carolina and you see, especially let me see if I do this right, topographical map.
Okay.
Is that the one where you see the bumps? What's topographical?
The bumps and the lines? Yes, it's a topographical map.
Nailed it.
Bumps and lines.
So when you're looking at those bumps and lines, it's amazing how half or like 1/3 of North Carolina mountains, Appalachian, the middle is, I guess you'd call them plains, but Piedmont.
Piedmont's what it's called.
Yeah, and then the last segment is beach, and it's and we have it all. It really is special.
So the 3 segments, you actually got them spot on. The 3 segments are coastal plains, Piedmont, and I think they call them foothills, but it's mountains.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh. Yeah. Those are foothills.
Right. Freaking A.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I love this state. I love this state so much. There's more in this state than most people know or understand.
A lot of history too.
They don't really know how to look for it, so they don't go. They don't go looking for it. Yeah. I'm not that upset by that because that means there's less people out there to bother me.
That's true.
But I would not be upset if more people got out and really experienced it.
I think I want more after being in the river and after living at the beach. What I really want now is to spend some time hiking and camping in a mountainous area.
Absolutely. I agree completely. I love the mountains. Austin and I are going to the Virginia mountains with Audrey in October, I think, is our first
big trip with her. Yeah.
We've got a friend who's got some property out there with a house on it. He lets us stay in it.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to spend a week out there up in the mountains of Virginia and North Carolina that straddles both.
That sounds amazing.
It's beautiful out there. It's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I miss it.
I did it a lot as a kid. My family went to the mountains and the beach every year. That was our routine. Yep. Instead of going on like overseas trips or like stuff like that, we would spend 2 weeks at the beach every year, and then probably go to the mountains for a weekend a couple of times, and Boone and Blowing Rock and all that. So,
absolutely.
And we did it every year. Yeah. And then probably when I got to college is when we stopped. And I have not been to the mountains in probably a good 5 years. 4 years.
So for Austin and I, our honeymoon, we spent a week in the mountains, and so my Xterra, I've got it to where we can camp out of the back of it.
Yes.
And what we did was we went to the southern part of the mountain chains in North Carolina, hiked and camped there. Then we went north a little bit, found another spot for the next day, hiked and camped there. Went a little bit north, and we did that from the southern part of the mountains all the way up to the northern part of the mountains. Then we came home.
Bro.
That was our honeymoon.
Would you say that was your favorite trip when it comes to what ones you two have done together? Or would you say that Shackelford moment really?
Oh man, our honeymoon, the week we spent in the mountains camping out of the back of our truck. The last night, I knew that I didn't want to spend the entire trip just sleeping out of the back of the truck.
Yeah.
So the last night I did an Airbnb. We did a yurt.
Oh, cool.
So the very last day, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, the very last night. So we got there in the afternoon. That way we could experience the town as well.
So what's a yurt? I only know about yogurt.
Yeah, not a food.
Okay.
A yurt is a traditional Mongolian style house. So it's a canvas or leather, like animal skin house. It's round. Think of like a teepee, but much larger, and it's just a circular.
That's cool.
It doesn't have like the big pinnacle like that a teepee might have.
Good energy flow,
but it's round and comes to a peak.
Nice.
And it was actually really neat because there was a thunderstorm that night that I didn't know was going to happen, and we slept in that yurt during a thunderstorm. We were totally dry, totally fine.
That sounds so nice. I
But
love a
there's not
storm.
there's no air conditioning or anything like that. They did have a shower run to it, but no plumbing for like a toilet or anything. They had an outhouse. But we loved it. That's how we spent our last night of our honeymoon.
That was a good move by you.
Yeah,
mix it up at the very end.
I like to plan those kinds of trips, and I like to do things like that for Austin. She deserves it. And, it was a lot of fun for me too. So
see, that's something that I think you bond with someone on a whole nother level out in the wild, and I think to start y'all's lives together by doing those trips was a really cool move.
There's two ways to test if you're in a good relationship.
Yeah.
Move houses with somebody. Or go backpacking with them. And if your relationship survives those two situations, you got a good one.
Hey, I love that.
Because if you can move furniture and still be in a relationship afterwards, you got a good one. And God bless that woman, because she has helped me move that couch that's back there behind you. Oh man. 4 or 5 times now, and that is a heavy freaking couch. And she's been a trooper for most of it.
That is so cool and so true. Jen has helped me rearrange my place multiple times, and each time it's been way better. And what I love is when your partner does something for you that seems like it looks tiring, or like, what I mean is I'd constantly say thank you, oh my gosh, but they're loving it.
Yep.
When your partner does something that looks like work but they're enjoying it, that's just love. I love it so much. When they
it's very
I had trouble saying it, but
no, you're good. It's very fulfilling. You're absolutely right. So we're at the end of part 2 here. I'm sure we're gonna have more camping stories as we do these episodes. I'm really happy that you got to experience that trip. That's an impressive trip.
Yeah,
it's not an easy thing to do, especially for 50 miles. So congratulations.
All it took
you've
was
definitely achieved something.
I
want you to feel like you have.
I feel
you
it.
Absolutely have.
I mean, it's wild. I feel like Achilles from Troy because I am unbeatable and so powerful.
Right,
and
bring it down a notch, Brad.
But I was taken down by a chicken sandwich. That was my Achilles heel.
That was your arrow to the heel, that chicken sandwich. Yeah. So, got it. Okay.
I wasn't, bragging.
You've absolutely accomplished.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I really loved all the stuff you told me. There's so many tricks and tips of the trade.
Man. Yeah. Ask away if you ever have questions, man. And like I said, I could talk about it for hours. So
I love it.
We probably end up doing that. So let's leave off with a Willism and some dad advice. So if you want to take it away with a Willism, I'll get some dad advice and we'll call it.
I'm sure a lot of dads would consider this would be great dad advice too. But guys, I might have said this before. Trim your toenails. Have I said that before? I said that before, didn't I? Okay. Then it's worth repeating. Your bed sheets will thank you.
No. Come on, give me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll get some dad advice. Yeah, I'll get some dad advice. Think about a Willism and we'll close it out. I was thinking about this earlier today. Actually, we knew we were going to record the podcast today, but it's okay if you have to change the way you do something, so long as you get it done. And the reason I say this is Audrey is very mobile now. She's crawling around a lot. She's standing up and this. It's very difficult to get her dressed because she just wants to roll. She wants to roll as soon as you lay her down horizontal. She wants to roll. And I was struggling to get her pants on before I had to take her to school.
Yeah.
And she's 9 months old, for those of you who don't know. I had YouTube playing and she was watching YouTube, but she was standing up, balanced on the footrest.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what I can do? I took the pants and instead of going over each leg, I balled them up, put each foot in them, so she's standing in them now, and I just grabbed the waist and just yanked them up.
Hey,
still got her pants on. And
look at that.
Fine. Didn't freak out. Nothing. So it's okay to change something.
Yeah.
Even if it's worked in the past over and over again, it's okay to change something so long as you get it done.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. I might use that pants technique.
Yeah, I just keep rolling around. I don't understand. They keep coming off.
You know, we as guys, we try our best. We spend a lot of time holding in farts, and we don't want to embarrass ourselves. I am still trying not to fart around my girlfriend. But I think a great way to realize, hey, this person is just another human being, or like, let's say there's someone that makes you nervous, someone at work, or someone that you're, romantically interested in, or if there's anyone in your life that you're nervous around or you're stressed around and you're intimidated by, just fart. And then you'll see how they react. And every moment after that will not seem as bad.
I like how I want to bring people like out of technology and out of cities and out into the wild. You just want to fart in front of me.
I farted in front of a customer at work one time. And
so what are you going to do? Not buy this?
Yeah. You know what? I'm taking my business elsewhere. What was amazing is
like, they've got their debit card. And they're like, did you just fart?
Yeah.
You're slowly taking it back. You're like, yeah, why? It's like, I'm going to go now.
I learned
and
as
they're leaving, you're just farting more. Like,
I seriously, in the moment, I was so frightened. I was like, oh God, I just farted. And they looked at me, and then I looked at them, and no words were said, and everything was fine.
And then you never saw that person ever again.
I did not. But
because they were looking at him going, did I already pay for this? I'm just going to leave.
I'll never forget. I'll say it real quick. In college, in my art class, we were drawing. I was an art major. We were drawing in our class. There was a model, a nude model. It was a nude model class. We were drawing. And
quick, was this model attractive in any way, or was it just kind of like one of those?
This day, it was a dude.
Okay, question still stands. But.
Oh yeah, he was attractive. He was actually ripped.
Okay,
but he was
got it.
Peter Parker ripped, where he's small but toned.
Okay, so he's just not eating enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a ton of stories about this life drawing class. I'll save it for another time. But basically, my guy next to me, my classmate, he farts. He just randomly farts, and I looked at him and I was like, did you just rip? And he was like, yeah. And then he was just like, yeah. And then I was like, nice. And then and ever since then, I thought to myself, I should just try it in certain situations.
Yeah, don't do that here. So I did actually. So I'll leave off with this.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, we were taking one of our end of grade exams.
Yeah.
And I actually had to cough. And when I coughed,
cough farts get me all the time.
It was so unintentional. It was not on purpose at all.
Oh yeah.
But it was like the cough was I thought it was pretty forceful, but the fart was so much more forceful that it drowned out the cough instead of vice versa.
Whoa!
And everybody started, because you're sitting on those hard chairs where the desk is like attached.
Oh
to the chair,
yeah, it creates friction.
It's just echoing off of that.
Yeah,
and everyone just looked at me, and I was like,
"Well, you're
sorry."
We need those moments.
Everyone was laughing. It was really funny. It was the last day. I didn't care, but it wasn't on purpose. That's the thing. It was just an accident. I'm like,
you know what gets me?
Sorry,
laugh farts. Jen and I are watching TV. I laugh. I fart.
I'll tell you what. Good on the teacher. I don't remember this teacher's name, but he was like, "You good? You need to go to the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Nah, man. I appreciate that." So just let him out. Just let him go.
Let him out.
Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, we're really not planning on taking a month off at a time.
Yeah. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thanks for hanging around.
Yeah.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed making it. Part 1 and part 2. We've done technically 11 episodes of this podcast. Like this is a big deal.
Top percentile.
Honestly, this is a really big deal. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into these podcasts. We record for about an hour. I edit for about 2. You do the social media stuff. Like
it's incredible.
And it's something that we enjoy doing.
Yeah.
We don't get paid to do this. We just enjoy hanging out, talking, sharing our stories, and laughing. So I really hope you all enjoy it. Leave us a like. Please subscribe. It's just a simple click. Just do that click for us.
That's the way we know that you're there.
Yeah, it means a lot to us. It's something small. It's easy to do, but it means a whole lot to us. So
Whole lot.
thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
Go out in the woods.